Hey, 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 what's going on, everyone? This is Cody Waits. Welcome to 52/1993. We're also calling this a movie discussion for the year 1993. There's some confusion around that, but that's okay. Hope you're all having a great, wonderful Sunday. It's a little cold here, a little wet here, but all in all, a pretty good Sunday had by myself. I want to welcome everybody in to today's chat that we're going to do about the 1993 movie Dead Alive. Pretty shortly, I'll introduce our guest. He's been on here before, so he is a familiar face to the pod. But I really wanted to have him on here mostly because of the type of movie that Dead Alive is, and I really think that he has a huge appreciation for movies like this. So I'll introduce him here in just a couple seconds. First and foremost, if you haven't been with us before, welcome in. Like I said before, the name of the podcast is 52/1993. And basically what we do is we watch movies from the year 1993. I will watch 52 separate movies from this year. We'll talk, there'll be important movies released this year, and I'll be doing them in the order that they came out from the year. So by weekend releases. Those won't always match up, as you'll be able to tell from some of the date that the information that I give you on here. But we want to do these important movies. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad. Doesn't really matter what they did at the box office or what they got critically. I did, throw in the top 20 box office of numbers that year, and then I kind of pick and choose the rest of the year, things that were important or I think are culturally relevant as we move through this. So, and then I will usually have a guest to talk about this movie, and then I'll interview them about some topics, usually about their interest in movies, what their favorite movies are, what they like to talk about. So that's pretty much the premise for this. We talk for about an hour and a half about these things. We love to engage with the chat. That's why we stream live here on Twitch. So please, if you're here, please stream or feel free to follow us. Just hit that follow button. It's Quatesy Twitch here. You can also follow me on all social media platforms at CD Waits. You can also go to my letterbox to check out more information about this. That all these links are on my Twitch profile, so please feel free to do that. So after all of that, I am going to go ahead and bring my guest in. You've seen him before and you've listened to him before. You may like his interview, the last interview we did with him. You might not like him at all, but we're going to bring him on in here. It's Joseph, my friend Joseph Sir Garlett. We're going to bring him in here and see if what's going on here, where he is in my where my link is not working. Let me see if I can figure this out. Just a little bit of technical difficulty on my part. So let me see if I can figure this out and get him slotted in here. Oh, there we go. I think we've got him in here. There he is. Let's go ahead and say hello to Joseph. Joseph, how's it going? Oh, I've got him muted still, I think. There we go. I can hear him now.
I'm in here. Hey.
Hey, Joseph. Welcome back. I believe the last time we talked to you, we talked about Homeward Bound.
Yeah, Homeward Bound. Pretty much the same movie as today. So.
Pretty much the exact same movie as today. Slightly different. This is what I bring you in here for the polarizing opposite movies that we'll be talking about. And this one definitely is the complete opposite of Homeward Bound. So we're glad to have you back, and we're glad to talk to you a little bit more about this movie that I will introduce now. So today's movie is called Dead Alive. That is the American name for it, the American title for it. Originally, it was called Brain Dead, but I think there was an American movie that was already made that had the rights to that title. So fun fact off the gate, out the gates there. This was released on February 12th, 1993, and it's directed by somebody that you're probably pretty familiar with, Peter Jackson of the Lord of the Rings fame. This is also written by Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, his longtime collaborator, and Steven Sinclair. So those are some Oscar-worthy names there that I've just talked about. And we'll get into that and discuss that a little bit further as we get into this. So this stars Timothy Balm as Lionel Cosgrove, Diana Peñalver as Paquita, Elizabeth Moody as Mum, as Lionel's mum, and Ian Watkin as his Uncle Les. I believe those are probably the four most significant people in this movie. There are definitely some other characters that we'll talk about, but those are the four right off the bat there. The synopsis for this movie, so we'll get right into this, is an overprotective mother, Vera Cosgrove, spying on her grown son Lionel as he visits the zoo with the lovely Paquita, is accidentally bitten by the fearsome Sumatran rat monkey. When the bite turns his beloved mother into a zombie, Lionel tries to keep her locked safely in the basement, but her repeated escapes turn most of the neighbors into the Walking Dead, who then crash a high society party thrown by Lionel's boorish Uncle Les. I mean, what a wild synopsis that I stole from the internet to explain this movie.
That's all you need right there.
Some other fun facts about this: the budget of $3 million, and the box office in in North America, $246,623. So I don't think we've had quite a movie this bad that did so poorly at the box office like this one. Now, when I talk about the Rotten Tomatoes score and the IMDb scores, you'll not understand why it did so poorly at the box office. But that Rotten Tomatoes score is about 89%. IMDb has a 7.5 out of 10. This is definitely the highest reviewed movie we've done so far. And I've got two really, really good reviews. I like to take a good review, a bad review, and compare them. So my first and my favorite one is simply three words: sick, perverse, brilliant. That's by Mark Savlov of the Austin Chronicle. And then I got a negative review here that was, because all of this looks blatantly unreal, and because the timing of the shock effects is so haphazard, Dead Alive isn't especially scary or repulsive. Nor is it very funny. And that was Stephen Holden from the New York Times. Somebody in the chat wanted me to repeat the three words from that first review. It was sick, perverse, brilliant. So those are the three words again. And I think that's pretty good. I think that's a pretty good way to explain this. So now that I've went through all those fun facts for you, I want to get your initial thoughts. What'd you think? What'd you think, Joe?
Initial thoughts. I mean, you kind of hinted at it earlier. This is my kind of movie. I love movies that are just like they're there for the entertainment value, and that was just pure throughout the whole thing. So I thought there was so much that was over the top. I just loved it throughout, and I was actually watching it, and my sister walked in at like one of the goriest parts and was just horrified, and I'm over here laughing. So I don't know that I agree with Steven. I thought there was a lot of comedy to be had along the way. So
I agree wholeheartedly. This is definitely in my wheelhouse. I think of Sam Raimi a lot whenever I watch this movie. I think of Evil Dead and the buckets of blood and the slapstick humor that is throughout this entire movie. There's one 5-minute scene in this movie that I'll talk about that I think they were has to be the most fun that anybody could have had on a movie set. So, I'm with you. I full-heartedly think this is a movie that was made for me, and whether we're sick individuals for liking that, I don't really care. It's a great movie, and I'm glad that I've watched it now, as I think it's a very important film. especially looking at the filmography of somebody like Peter Jackson, who, like I said, we all know from the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the Hobbit trilogy, King Kong, does these big showy movies, and to see this movie kind of puts it into perspective for you. So let's jump into some of the scenes, the early scenes, and talk about, a little bit about those and break those down a little bit. So first, I'm going to start with the cold open before we even get to the title screen that takes place on Skull Island. So there's a little bit of King Kong love there that we already see. As we all know, King Kong comes from Skull Island. Peter Jackson famously remade King Kong. I actually like King Kong, the movie. I don't know how you feel about the remake of it, but we see two gentlemen that are running across this island, Skull Island, frantically with this creature in a cage that we don't even see, and they are being chased by a tribe that's on the island. That's the best way to explain that. And it's just a getaway. It's also very reminiscent. I don't know if you thought about it like this, of Indiana Jones
Yes.
and Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is definitely
Exactly what I thought of it.
Yeah, and I think this tribe is way worse at throwing spears than the ones in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But it was very reminiscent of that, and I can't help but to think that Peter Jackson definitely pulled from that a little bit, as much as he can.
Right.
So when you see this, what do you think? Like, what are you thinking of this movie? Because I had never seen this before. I don't think you had ever seen this before. What are you thinking as this starts?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things first. So the version that you watched, did it have something before that scene?
So no, the version the version that I watched was the American was definitely the American cut version. I did go back and skim through the New Zealand British version, whatever version it is, but yeah, the Queen.
That was really weird. There was like just a little thing with the Queen before the movie started, and just completely changed the pace right after that. So that threw me for a big loop, because that was the version I watched. But yeah, then you dive into sort of this chase scene, and you're like, okay, obviously, something crazy is in this box. What are we getting into here? And you're right, they couldn't throw spears to save their lives. I think they were really trying not to hit the cameraman really badly.
Yeah, no space at all. I'm pretty sure they didn't shoot that on a soundstage. I think they're on a very spacious area.
Yeah, it's weird, but they were like, okay, just make sure we can break this camera, guys. So they're just
and throughout this whole thing, this guy, this zoologist from the what is it, Newtown Zoo, I guess, in New Zealand, is back off to all these people and pulls out a machine gun and starts firing it at all these at this tribe of people, and then just leaves his compatriot behind and jumps in a car. And I'm definitely just skimming through it at this point, but they take off in this car on the island. I don't know where they're going. Again, you don't really know much about what's going on. It's all a blur. And he suddenly says this stupid monkey bit me, and they stop that car immediately and they pull him down on the ground. And he's like, what are they doing? And I forget what the translation is, but it's for the bite. Or I know what the translation is for the bite. I forget what the line is. He's got the bite.
Zingaya.
What was it?
Zingaya. I had to write it down
Zingaya.
So chanting it.
Zingaya, not to be confused with Zendaya. But Zingaya, he's got the bite. And then they just chop off everything, the arm. And then they realize he's got another bite on his shoulder.
Suddenly the fight
Chop that
everywhere.
sucker off. And then he's got a bite just randomly on his head. We don't know where that came from. And so they chop off his head, and that immediately brings up the title screen for Dead Alive or Brain Dead, as the version that you watched. What a wild start.
Yeah, you didn't really know what you're getting into until that moment, and then it was pretty clear that it was going to be quite a gory experience.
Yeah, what a movie you're getting right then. And the best thing is that it's almost like you already got a little bit of it with the version that you watched. You got the Queen segment, which is just like a God Save the Queen,
Yeah.
and then it goes to this island thing. For the American version, it's just you go from that scene, and then you're in this 1950s New Zealand, and it's all very, I don't know, pastel, very like what you would imagine the 1950s, this 1950s town, and this happy-go-lucky place, a small town feel. There's a store. You've got a pretty lead character who is running this place. It's just a very drastic switch.
Yes.
And
It's kind of like the zoo car or whatever like goes off and then gone from your mind for the next little bit. So you don't really know.
yeah,
how
you're
that-
like, what was the
comes
point of
around.
that entire thing?
Exactly.
And you really don't even know until for the longest time where this is even going. So you're introduced to Paquita, who that actress I thought was pretty great in this. For what this movie ended up being, I really liked Paquita. I thought she was a little babe, absolutely, for this movie, and wasn't really sure about her character. Well, she is Paquita longing for love. She just wants to find that special someone, and that's what we're introduced to at the very beginning. And her grandmother, I believe, is like I think she's part Romani, and starts doing like tarot card readings to tell this girl about what her love life is going to be like, and she wants it to be this delivery guy that just showed up, who shows up all the time, and her grandma's like, no, that's not who it's going to be. And then I love the cards that are played, because I think it's the Black Knight, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
The black, and the face of it looks just like Lionel. Like that card was created just for that.
To do that? Or is this
No,
just coincidence?
they made that card to look like him. It was pretty.
Oh,
good.
did they really?
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, she finds out, oh, you're gonna meet this guy very soon. Very excited for Paquita. You're like, oh, this is a little love story that we've got brewing here. In this movie called Dead Alive. And then the other, I forget what the other card is, but it's basically like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of death surrounding this person, but you're going to be with this guy forever. Like, this is your guy.
Yeah. And she like brushes that one under the table. It's like, oh no, we're
Oh yeah.
let's just focus on these. Like, don't worry about this other card.
Focus.
That's not
What?
important.
She's just like, get this girl out of my house. I'm tired of taking care of her. I just want her married off. It's perfect. It's perfect. And there's like a symbol, like a crescent moon and a dagger. That's how she'll know that this is the guy. And then enter our main protagonist, Lionel. He comes into the store. He's a little bumbling, is a good way to put this. And unique thing in this scene, he's trying to get Black Knight licorice. That's the brand name of the licorice that he's getting off the counter. And he bumbles and fumbles that, and somehow whatever he is doing there makes that symbol, that crescent moon symbol. And Paquita knows from that point on, this is my guy. I'm going to marry him. I don't even care if I like him or not. This is him. I'm concentrating. I'm putting my full effort into this guy. And I don't even know what Lionel's doing there, but he just runs off after this whole interaction. Like, he's super nervous and just goes home to go fix his mower, for a little bit of foreshadowing. What do you think about Lionel? What do you think about the setup that we have right now?
It was perfect because like the guy before that was like kind of like tall and dashing and kind of seemed charming, but also like corny. So, but then Lionel just comes in and he's like a mess. He probably knocked over like 30 things in the store before he left. And so it was just like that classic, like, oh, you're gonna end up with this guy instead kind of moment, which was funny that she just embraced it and didn't like fight it at all. She wasn't like, oh no, why can't it be Roger? She was just like, nope, Lionel, he's
She
the guy.
switched.
I'm going after him.
Fun fact: I read this. I did not confirm it. Take the time to confirm this. The delivery guy that came in before, what's his name?
Roger.
Roger. Roger, the guy that played Roger, I believe played Isildur in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, wait, which one is Isildur?
Isildur is the one that cuts off Sauron's fingers in the
Okay.
yeah, so in the flashback scene in the very beginning of Fellowship, that's Isildur. So
Cool.
little fun fact there. Yeah, I just read that before coming on. So if it's not true, don't come at me, chat. Don't come for me at all.
Fact check. We need some fact checkers.
I don't want any fact checkers in here. This is all just like the worst kind of research possible at this point.
Also, I don't think Kevin's happy about the spoiler for the Lord of the Rings movie there. So.
Oh, come on now. I mean, it happens in the first 5 minutes. Read a book. Read a book. Those things have been out since 1930 something. Give me a break.
Give me a break.
So we've got this love story. We've got Lionel, and then we eventually get introduced to Lionel's mother. And I think this is the central fight, the central I can't even think of the word I'm trying to find here. The basically your protagonist, your antagonist of this entire movie. It all goes back to Lionel and his mother. And she's overbearing. She's super protective of Lionel. Paquita comes over to the house to bring the groceries that they ordered. And she's very much flirting with Lionel, wants to get Lionel on a date, take her to the zoo. A little bit of setup there for us. And Lionel's mom sees this interaction. She's like, hell no. Like, that's my boy. It's a little bit of mother boy kind of thing from Arrested Development. This is Buster and his mother here. And it's a classic, mother loves his son tale.
Too much.
Too much. That never goes wrong in movies.
Right. You said foreshadowing too, like the first scene that we meet her and like the whole first scene, she's just got a butcher knife and just carrying it around, waving it. Every part of that scene, she has this butcher knife in her hand. And I'm just like, okay.
And
that's what kind of woman she is.
yeah. And even though we get that in the beginning, like, I still don't think I'm prepared for what's about to like go down in this movie. Yes, we saw the guy get his arms chopped off, his arms chopped off, his head chopped off in the cold open in this movie. I still don't know what's going on here. Like, I'm not prepared at all until we get to the zoo. And then I'm like, oh, that's what this movie's going to be.
Yeah, the zoo.
So I think you have a little bit of extra scenes in the zoo scene with the version that you're watching.
Nice.
But basically, Lionel and Paquita go on a date to the zoo. They see the Sumatran rat monkey that I guess is what they were carrying in the beginning. And folks, this thing is one of the best puppets I've ever seen in my life. Not really, but I mean, like, for the time, 1993, we're looking at this puppet or this animatronic, this whatever. Harryhausen, whatever thing, claymation thing. I don't know. This thing's incredible looking. And Lionel's mom decides to spy on this date that they're having. And as she's doing this, she gets a little too close to the Sumatran rat monkey cage. And I think that before she's at that cage, Lionel and Paquita meet this strange zookeeper guy that tells them all about this rat monkey, and that the rats got transported to this island and forced themselves on the monkeys that lived there, and then this rat monkey is evil and was born from this. Why do I need that exposition? I'll never know. But we get that. And as Lionel's mother is backing up to that cage, she gets bit by the Sumatran rat monkey and on the arm, and she stomps on and yells, and she stomps on the head of that rat monkey. And I think that is when we get this. We know what kind of movie we're getting, because you get a very long shot of this grotesque monkey's head popping as Lionel's mother is just putting the heel in this thing's head. And there's eyeballs popping out. There's goop. I don't even think it's like can be classified as blood or guts or anything. It's just goop. There's a lot of goop in this movie. A lot of goop.
A lot of goop.
And
There's also a guy taking a picture while she's doing it, which is really creepy.
So we've got our bite. We'll never hear from that rat monkey ever again because it's dead now. And then our movie goes into full force, like just moves forward rapidly at this. And this is only an hour-and-a-half movie. A lot is happening, and like I feel like I could sit here and explain the entire thing for everybody, because there's not a scene that I was like, nah, that didn't need to be in there.
Right.
So the mom gets bit. She hates Paquita. That's pretty much all we need to know right now. But the mom starts to get sick because of this, and doesn't want to see a doctor at first, and doesn't, just kind of fighting off all these things. She's got important people coming over for dinner, and she can't she can't mess around with any of this stuff. And this was when I was going back through the scenes for this movie, I almost forgot about the dinner scene.
Yeah, the first dinner scene.
Yeah, the first dinner scene where the very important people come over, and what do you think? Give me your best reaction or description of this scene.
I liked it. I thought it was very indicative of what was going to be happening for the next little bit, as far as them trying to cover up and contain what was going on with her specifically. Where she aimed her arm wound and shot the pus into his pudding like Spider-Man almost. That was one of my favorite kind of moments in the grotesque. How she just casually just and then he just of course had his eyes closed and was like, I love good creamy pudding. I guess that didn't cause him to turn, right? Because we saw him later and he was still fine.
Yeah, I think it must be. I mean, I'm not arguing with the rules of this movie at all, but didn't his wife see the pus go into that?
Oh, she saw everything. He didn't see anything. She eventually is so grossed out and leaves the room, but he's just yeah, pudding, love it.
Honestly, I think this is the grossest scene in the movie. Mostly
the pudding.
Yeah, just with the custard that he's eating. I think that is grosser than anything else that this movie throws at you.
I don't think I agree with that. It was very gross. But it was once it got into the pudding, it looked like some, I don't know.
I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about that guy just slurping down that pudding.
Just oblivious.
And of course his mother just keeps getting, and I mean throughout that dinner she is just moaning and groaning, and it's just awful.
Not to mention she has a a chunk of her
Oh my
face.
gosh,
that,
I
like,
forgot about
she
that.
split off that he glued back on for
Yeah,
dinner.
a piece of her skin is just like flapped off, and he glues it back on like it's nothing. Like,
Yeah.
this is the only solution we have. Let's just glue this down. Can we talk about the ear?
Oh, I forgot about the ear. Yeah, that was really gross too. Of course, she saw that again, and he didn't.
And he
So
didn't
she
see
got
the
the
ear.
full scope of the whole
The eating of the
experience.
yeah, this is the grossest scene in the movie.
The ear was pretty bad. I'll give you that. The ear was pretty bad.
This is
Uh,
it. I mean, as much blood and deaths as we get later, this is this one was a little bit like
okay.
so yeah, something's really wrong with Lionel's mom after this. Like, we don't know what it is, but it's pretty bad. And what happens with the ear? I mean, it falls off right into her.
Yeah, she's just sitting there with the pudding, and it just falls off into her pudding, and
She just eats it.
her own
She
ear.
just eats her own.
With the earring and everything. Like, yeah, just the whole thing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, again, this is Peter Jackson,
Yeah.
who made the Academy Award-winning film The Return of the King with 13 different endings and Hobbits. Same guy.
Yeah.
Same guy did this. Wrote and directed.
I think to your point about that, I think I was a little bit more prepared for this movie than you might have been, because I did watch his previous movie last year called Bad Taste, which is in the same vein. Like, there's like aliens and a lot of grotesque stuff happening like that. So I kind of felt like we were going to be in that same sort of mode for this.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to just being in like Lord of the Rings guy mode. That's how I felt when I saw Bad Taste. I was like, this is how this guy got started? Like, what in the world? And how did he get to Lord of the Rings after this? Like, man, it's crazy.
But hey, people grow up. They got to start somewhere. And, you have something that you like this. And you just, you make it happen. So Lionel's mom gets sicker and sicker, and to the point where Lionel kind of tries to keep her at bay, keep Paquita away. I think at one point he even says to Paquita, "Hey, we're done. Like, I can't date you anymore. I got to take care of my mom. She's super important to me. Guy's got mommy issues." Absolutely. And as he's telling Paquita, "I can't see you anymore," the mom has come out of the house. She's desperate to find Lionel, and I think that's when the town discovers that. Or I think, does she get hit? She gets hit by she gets
out of the little trolley car and goes flying through the window of the little grocer.
So Lionel's mom dies, and this is the last that we think we'll see of something like this. She dies. Well, Lionel knows better. Because his mom just keeps coming back, and he has to keep subduing her by like injecting like a sedative or something.
Yeah, tranquilizer.
That's what it is. Yeah, you have to use a tranquilizer, and he keeps injecting it to her. Like, even at her funeral, he has to keep her at bay and say, like, "Stay in the box, lady." Everybody thinks that Lionel's a little bit too, overprotective of his mother. He's a little too into his mom at the funeral even. And his mom comes back, and they finally bury her or whatnot. Well, Lionel knows the truth still. His mom's going to keep coming back. She's just going to keep coming back. So one of my absolute favorite scenes in this movie takes place at the graveyard.
Yes.
The graveyard scene. So Lionel comes back, to make sure that his mom stays in the ground, kind of thing. And he finds that there's a group of hoodlums. Is the best way to a 1950s greaser gang there, just hanging out in the graveyard. And my a classic line that I've got written down here. That's my mother you're pissing on. As our character, as our head greaser here, I think his name's Void, is just peeing on Lionel's mom's grave, and as as he's peeing, Lionel's mom comes back from the dead, grabs Void by the crotch, and bites him, and then we get a graveyard fight scene between. This is where it turns into a little bit of a kung fu movie. The priest,
Couple minutes, yeah.
yeah, the priest turns into Bruce Lee for a little bit and says, what does he say? Oh, this calls for divine intervention, and starts a whole fight scene with Lionel's mom and these hoodlums and all these zombies here. This calls for divine intervention. And it really is a kung fu movie. Like, this priest has moves that I don't know where he's come from ever.
He literally, I think that my two favorite lines in the movie are from that scene. This calls for divine intervention. He also says, I kick ass for the Lord.
I kick ass for the Lord. This movie's absurd. Yeah. And I loved every second of it. I kick ass for the Lord. But everybody gets bit here. So we got Void bit. We've got the priest bit. I think the nurse from earlier.
Nurse
got bit. So this is kind of the crux of the movie, because Lionel is now seen this as his problem to take on. He's got all of these undead, dead people, and he's housing them. And it becomes this, like, almost as he is the paternal character to these children that he has now. They act like children. They just want to, eat. And the priest and the nurse end up, trying to make out the entire time and try and get it on as zombies. And he has to separate them. Am I missing? Is there a fifth character in there yet?
The baby comes in.
The baby comes in because, because Lionel can't be there for everything. He's got things to worry about. He's got to sort out with Paquita and everything. But two of the zombies, the priest and the nurse, get it on, and a baby zombie is born.
Yes.
And so if the graveyard fight scene is 1A, is like the greatest scene in this movie, I mean, I feel like there are like 4 or 5 of them here.
There's a lot to choose from.
There's a lot to take in here. There's a park scene where Lionel he's got this zombie baby, which is the ugliest puppet I've ever seen. It's not quite as ugly as the rat monkey, but there's this ugly zombie baby, and it is just the worst baby, and it makes me not want to be a parent ever. And I guess he was like, I guess I got to get this baby some sun. I'll take it to the park, get a full like bassin, or take this thing out there, walk it around, see if he can get some tips from the other mothers. And of course it just goes awry. It's a mess. The stroller gets away from him, starts rolling down the hill. This might be a callback to Oliver Stone's the Untouchables, as the stroller goes down the steps in that final, or not Oliver Stone, Brian De Palma, my bad. As in the Untouchables, as the stroller goes down the steps and they're having a shootout. That's what it reminds me of a little bit, is that scene. And the baby goes flying. He's crawling everywhere. He gets, like, if you want anything from a slapstick comedy, it all comes in this 5-minute scene where he's at the park. What are you thinking? Did I miss anything from that?
I did a little bit of research on this. This scene was like so disjointed from like the flow of the film. Like it looked like it was inserted in there, and apparently it was, based on the research I did. Apparently they finished under budget and Peter Jackson was like, let's go to the park. And so they filmed these extra things with the baby and just added it in there. Yeah, it's probably the most absurd and out of place in the whole movie, which is saying a lot because this movie is bonkers. When he's like slinging the baby around after it tries to eat another kid, like beating it up against the swing set, and this drunk guy is like over on the side, like with a beer, like laughing, like it is just out there, like completely cuckoo, like yeah. And then it goes back to like the back in the house, like it was just so weird how it got stuck in there, but it was hilarious.
Yeah, I'm glad that they came in under budget because this scene was the scene. I mean, it really solidified the movie. I think I probably gave it my rating at this point in the movie, and I think we still have like 30 minutes left in this movie.
Oh yeah, we haven't
even got to the ending of all of this, but yeah, that park scene, it just fed into everything that I love about movies completely. I mean, just the stunt work that's done in there. I mean, it's not impressive by any means, but if you like any kind of slapstick humor at all, if you've ever seen the Evil Dead movies, specifically Evil Dead 2, a lot of slapstick, a lot of Three Stooges references, bonks on the head, slip and fall, pratfalls, flips, just absurd humor. It's all in this scene. It's all encapsulated in this scene. So, I'm trying to think where am I? Oh, the uncle had come over, and the uncle is introduced at one point, kind of in the funeral scene with the mother, and he's kind of introduced there. He comes over, and I think this is where the nurse and the priest end up getting it on while Lionel's trying to talk to his uncle, who just wants a piece of that fortune that was left by the mother. So I think Lionel ends up, like, as he's trying to keep a secret and everything, he's like, you can have it, you can have the money, you can have the house, just don't tell anybody about he does find out that he's keeping these people alive. I think the uncle thinks that he's a little bit of a necrophiliac and that he's, a little kinky on the side there with these dead people. Doesn't know the full thing, but Lionel doesn't care. He's just like, take it all. The house is yours. I'll just, I'll keep these things at bay. And so Uncle Les steps into the picture, and he is something else. He's a definition of a creeper. He's already hit on Paquita a couple times. He's going to invite all of his friends over to have this party, and this party scene is the last 20-30 minutes of this movie, and it is more slapsticky humor where all these people are in this house. Lionel has kind of pushed Paquita away, but Paquita wants to know what's going on with Lionel, so she ends up coming to this party because she's like, what the hell, this guy's having a party? I thought he was wanting to be left alone, all this stuff. Doesn't know that the uncle's involved in all this. Again, Lionel has these people all tied up downstairs. He's got them, sedated so they can't, eat anybody else. But as you know, you put this many people into one setting, at this party, you got hundreds of people here, something's going to go bad. And that it does. I believe before all of this, Paquita does find out that Lionel has just been like saddled with this, surrounded by death, what Paquita's grandma had mentioned earlier, and has now realized what he's been doing this entire time. And she comes up with a good way to end up killing these zombies and put them in the ground for good, and kind of, allow Lionel to get over his grief and finally do this. What they don't realize is that by giving this poison, it's actually not a sedative, or it's not a poison to kill them. It's actually going to, I forget what the label is on it. It's
animal stimulant.
So everybody, you get super zombies from this, basically. It's the equivalent of the super shredder after getting the ooze in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. This is the secret of the ooze. This is where it originated, right here. This animal stimulant. So the party goes nuts at this point. They break out. All of the other the baby's out. The greaser zombie's out. The priest's out. The nurse is out, and they're just wreaking havoc on this party. They start biting people. Heads start, people start getting bit. Other people are getting bit. I mean, there are hundreds of people at this point. And this is where I think we just get a series of running around and cool kills. If you're into horror films, that's kind of what a lot of horror aficionados like to, talk about whenever they're watching a Freddy or a Jason movie. Like, what are the cool kills? And that's where we get a lot of this. We get a lot of cool kills in this movie. So I listed out a few. Maybe you have some more. There is a zombie a zombie punches through somebody's skull through the mouth. There's the girl that gets thrown up, the zombie girl that gets thrown up on the light bulb. And now she has glowing eyes and a mouth. I believe we've got the baby coming through a person's head at some point. Like, you just hear this terrifying baby laughter, and this girl's head just splits open, and the baby's inside saying, "Hello, I'm a baby. I'm a zombie baby." We've got some hearts and organs that become sentient and are a creature all to itself. It's like the heart and the lungs and all of the intestine is all one giant monster here. I know I'm missing out on some. What are some of the things that you could think of?
Yeah, where the intestines kind of turn into like tentacles. Yeah, that was like the craziest one, I think. I had punching through the girl's hand and like grabbing at someone else after he had like punched all the way through. It was like, yeah. And then when one of the zombies got decapitated and a gnome got stuck in the head's place, I really liked that. The nurse's head was like basically all the way off, but still kind of connected, almost like a hinge at the back.
It was like a Pez dispenser, yeah.
Yeah, she kept going all the way back, and they would do like an upside down camera moment. I really liked those. Let's see, the blender. Which it got like kind of a tease, and then it came back around, which I liked that.
That was a constant throughout this whole like bloody mess of a party scene. Is one guy's head was cut off from the top of his mouth up, and was just sliding around the floor. I found that to be very unique, and it was cool how they did all that.
His eyes around.
Yeah, he ends up in the blender. He gets the blender. What else?
Oh man, a lot of like cut in half, and both halves still doing their own thing. The severed hand that tried to like pick his nose after it was already.
That seemed that was very Evil Dead 2 to me. Very Evil Dead 2.
Man. The uncle was using the shears and the meat cleaver. At one point, he just like went anime mode in the kitchen, and then there's this pile of body parts.
Yeah, the uncle, as despicable as he is, was kind of a badass. He took care of a lot of those zombies.
He held his own. Yeah, there was just everything that you could think of, basically. And it was kind of that gimmicky thing where, like sometimes a zombie one grab and you're like split in half or thrown across the room or something. Sometimes they do like the I can't get a hold of you and you can get away at this moment kind of thing. That's classic zombie stuff. But
you get a couple Scooby-Doo moments with the amount of blood that is in the scene. Lionel's kind of in the foyer area of this house, and he's just slip sliding on the can't ever get his footing. And I think that's around the same time we get the lawnmower scene.
Yes.
So
that was like right there.
Yeah. So earlier in the movie, we were talking about the lawnmower and him fixing his lawnmower, which let me go back to this first. When in the very beginning of this movie, he's fixing his lawnmower, it stops or whatever. He flips that lawnmower over. You see the blades there. I'm terrified for this guy. This is early in the movie. Nothing's happened because I don't know if you guys know anything about push mowers, but you have to turn that thing. You have to take the spark plug out of those things, and you flip that thing. You gotta because if you touch those blades and you move those blades, it's about to turn on. You could turn on. You could chop off your hand. Never do that. Make sure that everything. This is a warning. This is if you don't get anything else out of this podcast. It is do not move the blades on a lawnmower, especially if you're trying to clear out grass or anything. That's my public service announcement. So you're all welcome for that. Now you won't lose your fingers.
Yeah.
But
in that moment, because it happened so fast, I was the same. I was like, oh man, he's our guy we just met. He's about to lose something.
Yeah. It's like, dude, you see the menacing blades. I don't trust a lawnmower. I don't. But because of that foreshadowing of that lawnmower, we get Lionel. He comes out. He's armed with this chest piece of the lawnmower in front of him, blades out, and he starts this thing up. The blades are going, and he just starts running into zombies. And I don't know. I don't have the exact figures on how much blood was used in this, but it has been said that this is the goriest scene in cinema ever. The most blood used, like physical blood. A lot of movies you'll see have fake blood or CGI blood from now on. Even Evil Dead has a scene where there is blood just like pouring in from all sides of the room. This is said to be the bloodiest scene ever. So just red dye, Karo syrup, just corn syrup everywhere. And it's one of the gnarliest.
He mows the lawn, man. He makes how many passes does he make? Like back and forth through the zombies.
I didn't count them. I hope you did.
I didn't either, but man, it's just like when you're mowing the lawn, how you go back and forth till you hit every piece of grass. That's exactly what he did.
three or four passes. I mean,
At least, yeah.
He just mows down all these zombies, and it's just one of the most impressive scenes I've ever seen in a movie. I've never seen anything like it. Again, this is a 1993 movie, and the fact that I haven't seen anything. Maybe I'm not watching the right movies. I do know that there are movies out nowadays that test the limits of what we can see and what we can't see. A couple come to mind when I think of like the Terrifier movies that just recently came out in the last couple of years. Kind of test the limits of what is the grotesque and what we can handle as human beings. This comes off a little bit more slapsticky, absurd, just the amount of blood just gushing there. So
over the top.
Yes. This is also where we get the death scene of the heart and organs, the lungs. They're trying to stop him. And this is kind of the last straw. Like Lionel finally kind of gets his moment. He's a hero. But we haven't heard from his mom this whole time. I didn't even think about it when I was watching. I was like, what about his mom? What about his mom? And she comes back with a vengeance.
She was incubating and the animal stimulant stuff. She I guess she had more or something. I don't know.
They had to have given her more, because the next time we see Lionel's mom, she is a giant, like I'm saying 10, 15 feet tall, naked monster, like the most swollen thing you could ever see, titties out, just everything out. And she starts chasing down Lionel and Paquita for the end kind of duel. And this is where we get a little bit more of the drama between Lionel and his mother. This whole time, and it's kind of absurd. Like, you don't even remember it at this point, but
no.
But like, apparently Lionel saw his dad drown in the ocean when he was younger. Well, this was all a made up memory for him. In reality, he saw his mother drown his father and his father's lover in the bathtub in front of him. And so, because I don't know, like, it's just absurd. Like, it's insane to think that this was part of it, but it is kind of like the final moment where Lionel confronts his mother, who not his mother anymore, and um, has that final moment. And she like, and of course, it's very just, I guess, Oedipus of this thing. Like, she takes him back into her womb, in like, and he ends up like cutting his way out, and
Yeah,
oh my gosh, this movie.
very on the nose.
This movie, and I just have big giant naked mom bringing Lionel back into her womb. Like, it's, I don't even know. How does Uncle Les get his, cuz he's pretty much the worst.
I think the mom like kills him when he's
That's right.
human, but then Paquita gets like the last hit when he's like zombified.
Yeah, he's awful.
He's like a spine with a head kind of sticking out of his body, and she like grabs the spine and
That's right.
smashes it.
Just
Pops.
just mashing. Just mashing.
Just one more time, yeah.
And they blow, and his mom blows up, right? I mean, the house is.
I guess it's implied because the house is kind of blowing up. I think it probably should have blown up all at once. The way she like ripped that gas line out,
Yeah.
but it's just kind of like slowly burning instead. Yeah, she like falls back into the house in the fire, and then that's.
Oh, that's yeah. This is not a blow up thing, and then we get the scene between Paquita and Lionel in the end. They kiss, they have a happy life. He throws away a necklace that he had gotten in the movie that was to protect him, which it does. That's how he cuts his way out of his mother's womb, cesarean style. It's
very important.
I the only the only other line I have that I didn't cover in this is "Your mother ate my dog."
Yes. That was kind of like the moment where Paquita knew something was going on with his mom.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's the name of the movie, like the Spanish title of the movie as well.
Yeah. Okay. That was one of my facts that I had. The Spanish title, "Tu madre se ha comido a mi perro." I wish my Spanish was better, but literally translates to "Your mother ate my dog."
And the way she said dog too, she was like, "Your mother ate my dog."
This movie. Did I miss anything? What else am I missing?
I really liked the at the funeral too. I think you kind of mentioned it where he was like trying to tranquilize her and keep her in the coffin, but like right when he gets the tranquilizer on her, she like busting through the glass door or whatever it is right in the middle of the ceremony, and the priest, who we later learn is like a kung fu badass, but we didn't know that yet, is right at that moment he's saying like, "Those who believe in Jesus shall be," and then they come crashing through and he's like, "Resurrected." Just like the delivery of that I love so much. Just that's just one example of like what the whole movie was. Just everything was so hilarious, I thought.
And then also at the funeral scene, Peter Jackson is a cameo. He is the Undertaker's assistant. Yeah. And I think that's the same character as the one from the movie that you had seen.
From Bad Taste. That was the only reason I recognized him, because he's like a bigger character in Bad Taste. He's in it quite a bit. He's kind of got like a similar thing in Bad Taste where the back of his head is like kind of exploded. He has to keep like pushing the flap back in so that his brain will function and then he can move. So he does like all this crazy stuff to like tape it, and like it's just ridiculous. But yeah, I saw him there. That was cool.
Anything else that I missed, or any other scenes that you really liked, or movies, or not movies, lines, or anything I might have missed?
I think we hit most of it. I did like, there was also like a when the priest and the nurse were like at the dinner table and they were first like trying to, like get it on or whatever, and they were like making out when he came back in from talking to Uncle Les, and like when he pulled him apart, she like pulled off the front of his face, and it just like, I don't know if this was intentional. It probably was, but I immediately was just like, sucking face, like, yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I did not even think about that. But yes,
Uh,
like it's just impressive makeup job there.
um,
This I don't even know if you make this movie anymore. Like I don't think anything like this ever happens anymore.
I don't think so.
Um,
Also, one other thing, why was the baby like the baby was born, and then the first time you see it, it's like popping out of a radio. You remember that? It's like
this
bursting
movie's
out of that radio, still with the umbilical cord like attached to the nurse, but it's already like inside of this radio somehow.
This movie,
uh,
I don't know. This movie's ridiculous. The baby's incredible. I thought I would get annoyed with the baby. The baby's.
I like the baby.
I want a separate baby movie.
Oh man,
I want Lionel and Paquita to raise that child.
we never saw the baby die. I
Yeah,
think it was in the house like crying while it was burning, but
yeah,
man, could still be around. I don't know.
could still be around. Maybe we'll get a sequel. Maybe Peter Jackson will get on this and make Brain Dead 2 or Dead Alive 2. I hope so. Does this movie hold up?
I think that's very subjective to who you ask and what their interpretation of hold up is. If you're talking about just like an example of make the goriest, most crazy thing that you can, and sort of weave it into a story and just have fun with it, yeah, it's. I mean, I can't imagine working on a movie where you would have like more fun than this.
Yeah, this has to be one of the most fun movies that has ever been made. Like, I'd hate to be the guy that had to clean up anything though.
Oh yeah, true.
300 I did write it down. 300 liters of blood in the final scene. 300 liters of blood. That's a lot of blood. I don't know how much blood that is in humans. I don't know how many
Yeah, that's a good question.
if I have a Spencer, if you're in the chat, find out how much humans have in blood and then get back to me. That's your job right now. I don't know. I think that this movie appeals to people that love comedy. I think this movie appeals to people that love horror. I don't think it appeals to people that love the Hobbit movies. I need that I need that converted to liters, not gallons. So I don't think it's problematic either. There were a couple lines in there that I think are interesting for like the people that Les hangs out with, or the people at this party, are you get a few like spare lines. I don't know if you heard any of them, but one of them that sticks out to me is I think somebody at the party's like, "Oh yeah, one of my best friends is a pedophile," and so like that these people are not good people, and so their deaths are almost like, that's fine. These people hang out with pedophiles. It's okay that they're dead, kind of thing. So,
do you remember a comment, something along the lines of like friends with a pedophile, that was just like,
yeah, it was just kind of out like in the background. You don't even get anything around it. So, let's see. Do you have any other fun facts or anything?
I think we covered most of it. The Steven Sinclair, the screenplay, also did the screenplay for Two Towers, which was the second Lord of the Rings movie. So kind of like the same, like just night and day sort of situation there. When you're talking about screenplays, yeah, it was just a lot packed in, and I loved it. It was so much gore, so many like it kind of made me feel the same way like the Final Destination movies do. It's like how how is this person gonna get killed? Like what's gonna happen? And then they just did everything that you could think of, and made it as graphic as possible.
and
Um,
and we're okay going with like the most absurd things too, like the
oh yeah,
just bringing back up the heart lungs monster. Like that just came out of nowhere, and they just introduced it with 15 minutes left in the movie, and it is all of a sudden a like formidable foe to Lionel throughout this whole thing. It's absurd, and I loved it. Like, yeah, just absolutely loved it. Um,
I wonder. Thinking about like the rating system at the time, I wonder. Do you think it was just like a comedic enough tone that it didn't get NC-17? Like when I saw this, I was like, how is this not NC-17?
So I hate to keep bringing up Evil Dead 2, but Evil Dead 2 did I think I read this from Bruce Campbell's book, If Chins Could Kill, where they talk about having to skirt the MPAA, and the only way they do that is by making in Evil Dead 2 they made the blood different colors, and so the blood has to be like an absurd bright red color. Like little things like that are the things that uh, keep
So
it.
because it was like too bright of a red, or
Yeah,
you know, unrealistic enough that you can get away with
yeah.
basically anything.
And I also listened to an interview with Brandon Cronenberg, who's David Cronenberg's son. Had Possessor. He's got a new movie coming out called Infinity Pool that I really want to see. But in an interview, he was talking about the MPAA system and how like you can't get theatrical releases in the United States if you're an NC-17 movie. NC-17 is basically the X rating that the MPAA came up with. So you can't release that. If it's on streaming service, you can do it. You can do anything on a streaming service because it all falls under that mature rating. So they had to do something. I don't know if they cut out some things, added some things in here that made it a little less. I would love to go into a deep dive on like the rating system, especially for something like this, like a absurd horror movie. Maybe the comedy factor is the thing in this one, that it's just enough. It's clearly meant to be funny, to where it's not as realistic. So I don't know.
That's the only thing I could think of, because I was just thinking like when you're talking about comparison with, was it Evil Dead 2 that was NC-17, or the first one?
I think the first one was NC-17.
First one, okay. Yeah, just like thinking back and comparing the two, I mean, I know there is at least one problematic thing from that movie that adds to that argument for it being NC-17. But just gore, I was just like trying to get a gore-wise comparison. It kind of seemed pretty close. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know. That'd be an interesting deep dive to go into for sure, especially with the horror genre specifically. And I mean, I know I've seen movies like Terrifier in the past couple years. I haven't seen the sequel to Terrifier 2, but that's in theaters, and I do think that I don't know, the world is becoming less conservative when it comes to scenes of, whether it's sexual nature or gore. Especially, we've always been a society that violence and gore have always been more okay than a sexual scene. So I think that they're becoming a little bit more lax in that area too, as we go on. But yeah, I'd love to see comparison, or how they decided what to rate, how they were rating this. So
Yeah, I tried to find see if I could get any like why it didn't get an NC-17, but I didn't come up with anything. So I'll have to take a little more dedication from my part.
yeah, any suggestions on if you would do anything with this movie? Would you remake it for today's audiences, or do you think it's perfect how it is?
Yeah, I think that's a tough remake. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I don't know that I would try it. I don't think one. I mean, the Evil Dead remake was fairly well received. It was similar, but it didn't have like the same like original tone. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
think as much. So I think if you tried to shift to like the tone to this to like either more serious, it wouldn't go over very well. And if you tried to make it somehow better comedy, I don't know what you would do to do that.
Yeah.
Uh, they had basically everything that you can think of as far as like craziest kills, like all your classic like horror moments and tropes. Like so I don't know what you would do different.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't really think there's anything that you can do with this movie to make it any different or make it any worse or better. Or I really do think it's a kind of perfect as is. So in that regard, what did you? We have a 5-star rating here. Mostly that's based on Letterboxd. Letterboxd is that app that I know Joseph uses. I use. Spencer uses as well. I got to teach him how to do it a little bit better. But it's based on a 5-star system, and so that's the rating system that I go with. What did you give it out of 5 stars?
So I'll give a little caveat first about how I kind of view the ratings. I don't necessarily do it exactly linear. It's more of like I guess exponential would be the right graph shape. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but basically, so the way I view the movies, like once you start getting to like 4 and higher, it takes a lot more to get to that point. So there'll be a lot of like threes and threes and a half. All that to say, uh, I kind of put it around like a 4.2. So I will have to round that down to a 4, I think.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I give it a 4 stars. I had a conversation recently about the rating system and how I kind of do the ratings with this, but I felt like this movie was, I mean, super entertaining. Had me laughing, had me grossed out, had like wasn't necessarily scary, and I don't know if that's the intention of this movie is to scare you. It doesn't have any jump scares or anything like that, but I definitely left feeling entertained. And obviously I'm not going to judge this movie the same way that I would judge Summersby, last week's movie. Which was a drama movie, a romance movie. Yeah, there's romance in this, but I can't even compare the romance in a movie like Summersby to a movie like Dead Alive, and to even say those two things in the same sentence, it's just crazy to think that that's to mark them on the same scale kind of thing. So that's kind
So
of
you said 4 star as well?
4 stars, definitely a 4-star system, or
Okay.
4-star on this one. Obviously, it has its ups and downs and everything, but I mean, this movie's firing on all cylinders here. 4 stars is a great rating. I save kind of those higher ratings for those absolutely perfect movies that I really just like go back to, even like time and time again. So definitely 4 stars in my book.
You made me just think of something when you said when you were talking about Summersby and romance. There's one scene in the middle of like the bloodbath where Paquita comes through and gives him like the little amulet or whatever
Mm-hmm.
that's like to protect him, and she like gives him a kiss on the cheek, and as she pulls away, there's like a line of like slime, almost like like when you chop into a mozzarella stick or something, and it's
Yeah.
just like the cheese, just like, and it like lingers in the shot for like a full minute after that, and that probably grossed me out almost as much as anything else in the whole movie. Even though it's probably just like whatever they're using for the
Yeah.
blood. It's like, but I was just like, oh, maybe think of Barbarian.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I just,
Barbarian, classic movie from this. Yeah, just some really, really, really gross things in this movie.
yeah.
If you are not a person with a good constitution, you might want to skip this one. I'd say if you're not a fan of scary movies as a whole, I'd skip this one. I will recommend it to whoever wants. I'll recommend it to people, but I'll give those caveats like, hey, it's pretty gross and it's insane. But other than that, you should see it, definitely. So I think that concludes our talk about this movie, Dead Alive. And I know that we covered some of your favorite movies the last time that we were able to talk. But I wanted Joe to do this because he and I both were on a mission the last year to watch 365 movies in 1 year, which is, that's a movie a day is the best way to put it. But it doesn't always go like that. It's not always, as easy as that. But yeah, we both had that goal we had a couple of, we like to do some of our New Year's resolutions together and keep up with each other and keep each other accountable. And this one was probably one of the more fun things that we got to discuss all year last year was our 365 movies in a year. So I'm going to ask, I'll talk about a few of those things. So one thing I wanted to say is, why did we do this? Why did you want to watch 365 movies?
I just kind of jumped on to see if I could accomplish it. I'm not usually like a plan oriented person, so like the thought of like intentionally planning to do like a movie a day on average was kind of like a good challenge. And like you said, it definitely didn't work out to where I watched one a day, but I had to make up ground here and there.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it's one of the, and in the same thing, like when I did this, I thought about it and I was like, I spend all my time at night watching television most of the time. Like I'm either playing a video game, I'm watching television, maybe reading a book, or watching a movie. And I was like, this is easy. It's one movie a day for
no problem.
No problem. And for me, it was, I don't remember. I know I ended up with like over 400. I think you ended it right at 365. I think I had 420 some by the end of it. I did not hit 500.
You won. We get it.
Well, that was not the intention of it. It was just to hit 365. And I had a couple of months there where I went on a tear of watching movies, and then I had a couple of months where I did not, because it felt like homework. And I don't know if it felt like that to you.
Yes. There were definitely times, especially like once you get a little bit behind and kind of have to grind to get back on track, it almost felt like homework, or like like tedious almost, like I have to do this, versus like kind of took away from that element of like how you want to approach a movie, like, oh, I'm wanting to watch a movie versus I have to watch this movie kind of. So yeah, I definitely had several moments of that throughout the year, where it just you weren't feeling it, and then that kind of just gets you further behind.
It certainly did. Yeah, I think by my low point, I believe you probably know yours too, but like I know July, like the summer period, was just like the worst for me. I think I was like maybe 30 to 45 days behind on my movie watching schedule, and the only thing that caught me up, and I was trying to do this, and I think you were trying to do this too, Joe, where I was trying to watch things that I had not seen, and seen ever, not just this year. I didn't count movies twice. That was a rule in this, that you don't count multiple. Like, so if I watched Booksmart at the beginning of the year and I watched it again at the end of the year, it doesn't count twice. I don't count that. So anytime I watched a movie twice, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, one of the best movies of the year last year, watched it twice in theaters. Only counted once for me. What about you? Like when was yours? The summer?
I definitely had a big lull in the summer. I think I got completely caught back up towards the end of summer. Um, Weirdly enough, I, October was great because I think we both did kind of like a scary movie binge where we were trying to watch a ton of horror. After October, I really like fell into a slump as well.
I
Like
mean,
I
the
kind of,
holidays, it's so hard.
yeah. So by the time I got to December, I was probably like 25 movies behind. So
Hmm.
December was a
A
busy
grind.
time.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you brought up the Halloween, the October. So, um, in October, I wanted to do 31 Days of Horror. I've done it the past. I've done that at least the past 2 or 3 years, where I've watched 31 horror movies in the month of October. So that was fun. I usually last year I last 2021 I did all of the Marvel movies. There's like 20 some of those. I didn't want to do that again this past year, so I did all the Pixar movies. I watched all those again because there were a few of those that I hadn't seen yet. Did you have anything like that where you did like different series or different genre or a genre that you really wanted to go into?
Yeah, I watched throughout the year probably most of like the more enjoyable series that I like. So like all the Scream movies, all the Alien movies. I lumped in all the Predator movies as well, even though I don't particularly like any of those
Same.
super well. But I think that was mainly because of the new one that came out. I just wanted to watch all those again. All the Final Destinations. I watched all the Saw movies for the first time,
Hmm.
which, uh, if you have never done that and are thinking about doing it, maybe not worth your time. But I can still say that I did it. Yeah, I did go on a lot of like series kicks like that. I didn't do as well as you did about seeing a lot of movies I had not seen before.
Hmm.
I did watch a lot of mine were not first time watches.
Did you keep track of that?
When I got everything back in Letterbox, I did.
Hmm.
I need to go back and see like how many. I would say probably the breakdown. I probably watched between 75 and 100 movies I had never seen before.
Hmm.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
Versus the rest were movies I'd seen before.
Yeah, I think I looked at it. I know it was somewhere in the 200 range of movies that I had not seen before. So
Nice.
I was pretty proud of myself because I do have this like overarching goal of watching all of these stupid movies from this stupid coffee table book, 1001 movies to watch
Are you gonna?
before you die. And
Do you have it handy so we can see the cover?
I don't have I don't have the cover on mine anymore. I tore the cover off. I can't remember which one do you have. Do you have that book too?
No, I don't have it. I've seen it before, but I don't have it.
I think the one I have is the one with the Shining cover, Jack Nicholson on
Okay.
the front. But every year they update it. They add in some movies. They'll take some movies out. But I keep the running list, and this is another thing. You know, this is another shout out to Letterboxd. Is a lot of lists are kept up to date like that. So there are like 1,250 or yeah, 1,250 movies on the 1,001 movies to see before you die list, and I'm still chipping away at that, and that can be a bit of a slog going through those. So, what are
Uh,
not seen before? Were some of your favorites that you saw from this past year?
Can you still hear me? Okay, I think maybe
Did
I
you hear me?
lagged there, but
Yeah, yeah. I think I dropped some frames there. Can you
oh,
hear me
okay.
now?
Yeah, yeah. I think I caught the most of the question though. You said like movies that I hadn't seen before that I liked or didn't like.
Yeah, yeah. What were some of the ones from your past year that you did like? What were some of your
Did
favorites?
like. Okay. I think yeah. Funny enough, Bad Taste, Peter Jackson. That was one of the like most memorable and fun movies that I saw all of last year. Um, Spirited Away, I saw for the first time, which is incredible and deserves every spot that it has on every list that I've ever seen it on. I really like the new Pinocchio, not the Disney one, the Guillermo del Toro one. I really like that one a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I saw Free Fire for the first time. It's kind of like it's a fun little like bottle episode type movie where all these people are trapped in a warehouse together and there's a lot of guns involved. It was very enjoyable.
That's an A24, right?
I think it's A24. Yeah, I went on an A24 kick there for a while. A lot of movies there I hadn't seen before. A lot of pretty good ones too. I think Free Fire was probably my favorite of those that I had never seen before. Brie Larson. And the other one I had on my list that I really, really liked was Tick, Tick, Boom, the Andrew Garfield
Oh, okay.
musical-esque type thing. I don't know if you would call it a pure musical or not, but yeah, that was one
It's
of
definitely
my favorites.
unique.
Yeah, very unique. He was
Yeah,
incredible.
I love Andrew Garfield's going to get his recognition someday, and I hope soon, because that guy, he's bringing it, man. He's incredible. I didn't think of him last week whenever I was talking about some of my favorite actors, but he's up there because I mean, everything he is doing, he's bringing 100% Andrew Garfield into every performance that he does.
Agreed. What about
And I
you?
know I'm pretty sure you still haven't seen Under the Silver Lake, but you need to watch Under the Silver Lake. I need your opinion on it.
I'm gonna write it down right now.
So get on that. Okay, good. Yeah, some of the movies that when I asked this question, I was like, oh yeah, I probably need to list some of my favorite ones too. I did a lot of again, I try to watch some of the movies that are on that 1001 movies to see before you die list. So I finally watched A Brief Encounter by David Lean. Vivre sa vie, which is a Jean-Luc Godard film. I know this sounds super pretentious and just like stupid cinemaphile kind of stuff here, but it's really, really good. And then one of my favorite movies of the year, Exterminating Angel by Luis Buñuel. And the whole premise of this movie is that all of these people get invited to a dinner party and then they suddenly can't leave. They try to walk out of the room and they can't. And that's the entire premise of the movie. And it's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen in my and the only reason I watched this movie, it's listed as one of the greatest movies of all time. Buñuel's, an artist kind of thing. It's called Exterminating Angel. And it's actually mentioned in the movie Midnight in Paris. If you haven't seen Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris, I know he's a polarizing figure and he's kind of an awful, terrible person. All that to say, Midnight in Paris is a great movie. It doesn't even have Woody Allen in it, so most people will end up liking it a little bit better. But Luis Buñuel is actually a character in that, and the main character, Owen Wilson, suggests to him that he should write a story about these people at a dinner party that can't leave. And he just leaves Buñuel with that, and Buñuel's like, that's it? Like, why can't they leave? And so it's just kind of a little meta joke, and that Owen Wilson gave Buñuel the idea for the Exterminating Angel, which is pretty cool. I watched the Before Sunrise trilogy, the Before trilogy by Richard Linklater. If you haven't seen any of those movies, they're very dialogue heavy, a lot of walking and talking. It's really just that, honestly, and it's a beautiful trilogy about kind of love at first sight, and then coming back to that 10 years later and meeting each other again, crazy random happenstance kind of situation. And then the final movie in that series is about marriage and how hard that is, and keeping love alive. It's a beautiful, beautiful trilogy of movies that I would recommend everybody see. And then I finally watched The Master this year, Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master, which is a little bit loosely about Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard. But that's a great movie, hands down. I love that movie. everybody in that is amazing. Makes me miss Philip Seymour Hoffman even more when I see performances like that in that film. So those were some of my favorites. I didn't really list anything here for this question, but I'll go ahead and ask you: was there anything that like you were excited about that you were gonna watch that really disappointed you?
Yeah, I actually do have several that surprisingly I was not as fond of. I finally watched Assault on Precinct 13, the original. I think it was either late
Yeah.
60s, early 70s. Didn't really like it that much. I think I maybe got to see that in theaters, like at a anniversary showing. Wasn't really that impressed with it. I don't know. Another old one that I watched for the first time was the original Tron movie that I also thought was meh. Both of those had I had seen
Just
like
okay,
online
yeah.
videos. Yeah, and they were both like okay, not really. I guess maybe overhyped, or I just heard so much about them over the years and didn't really hit for me as well. Um, I also watched Gravity for the first time. Kind of the same thing.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
thought the acting was great. Super, super unrealistic. She would have died 100 times in that movie. So that really turned me off. But and then probably the hottest take that I have that a lot of people don't really jive with is I didn't really like the Black Phone that much.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
not just
Black Phone, that Ethan Hawke.
yeah.
I did watch that one. Finally, I think I did like it a little bit more than you, but I get it. I understand.
So yeah,
I'm
it
trying
was,
to.
it
I'm
was
kind
fun.
of slowly going. Yeah, I'm going through my list to see if there's anything that like really sticks out that I'm like, oh yeah, I really wish that was a little bit better than it was. Mine was mostly like newer movies, like a Blonde, that movie about Marilyn Monroe. That one really missed the mark for me, and I was super excited about that movie, mostly because it came from the same guy that brought Andrew Dominic, who brought us Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which is an incredible movie, especially visually. And the acting performances in that are really good and subtle too. But I really wanted Blonde to be amazing, and it just did not deliver. And I love Ana de Armas. I think she's a good actress, and I'm excited for her to be in more things. But yeah, that one was a little bit hard for me to swallow. Going through some of these other ones here.
There is one other one that I watched that maybe I just need to rewatch again because of the hot take. And we've already talked about this, is that I didn't really like Thief that much.
Oh, well, that was I got on a podcast kick there, and somebody suggested Thief by Michael Mann, and I kind of go down that I went down a little Michael Mann path watching Heat and Collateral, and I loved Thief. I thought it was incredible, and that was his first movie. But I get it; it's not for everybody.
It was pretty impressive for first movie. I mean,
So.
but just overall.
Somebody in the chat said that Thief was hard to hear. It was. It's because they haven't remastered that movie, and the only streaming that has like the worst sound quality possible on it. So I think I watched it with these headphones on, and these are like pretty good headphones. So that's the only reason I could hear anything. But yeah, if you get a bad quality stream for that, then I mean, I don't think that's going to solve the rest of it, but
maybe not, but it could help.
Yeah, maybe it could help. You're right. I'm trying to think of anything else. No. Did you? So with this whole 365, and I'll try and wrap up here in the next couple of minutes. But with these 365 movies, Did you enjoy watching them? Like, I know we talked about it kind of being like homework at times, but did it take anything away from the way that you view movies, or the way that the way you look at them, or the anything like that? Did it change any of your perspective on that?
I don't think so. I did. I will be honest and say that like December, when I was so far behind and had to grind so much, I did watch several movies a lot more passively than I usually do. Just while other stuff was going on, just because I had to get caught up. So there was some of the magic lost in that. I don't usually like when I'm watching something that I want to watch. I want to have my attention focused on it and not just have it be in background. You know, sometimes you have stuff on the background, but this most of these movies, like I was trying not to do that, but it kind of leaned pretty heavily towards that, and also skewed my movie picks somewhat. So a lot of my movies that I picked that I had already seen was because of that, because I could, you know, it could be a little more passive. I didn't have to give like my 100% attention to it. I could give like 85 and still know everything and like count it, I guess, you know. But
Yeah.
in moments where I wasn't doing that before December, like when I was actively watching movies and stuff, I did really enjoy it. My A24 kick that I went on for a while on Showtime was really awesome. I found a lot of new movies there that I had never seen before. So,
well, A24 leads all the Oscar nominations this year for production company, so they're doing something right. Good job, A24. You're my A24 and horror guy, always, and sometimes those things go together. A24 and horror. So, any new goals before I let you go?
Right now I'm kind of in I guess a hiatus. I did not do the 365 again. Right now I'm just kind of doing like maybe 2 movies a week. So like the movie for the podcast and like one other one. I saw The Whale finally last week, which was really good, I thought. And not just being like a Aronofsky person. So yeah, other than that, kind of dipping more into TV for a little while. So.
Same. That's exactly what I'm doing. Just spending a little bit more time on TV. So, well, Joe, thank you so much again for coming on here and talking to me about this incredible movie.
Yes.
I really appreciate it, and I know that I can always depend on you for good movie taste and good movie takes. So, just thank you so much.
Good taste, bad taste.
Good taste, bad taste. Exactly. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks so much to Joe for joining us again for a special movie this week. We're going to end things this week, but before I go, I'll let you know that next week's movie is going to be a special one, especially because of the upcoming holiday that's coming up. So it's kind of convenient that we're doing this movie, and we'll have on a special new guest next week and go through some of their favorite movies as well. So next week's movie is actually going to be Groundhog Day, the Bill Murray starring role with that lovable Punxsutawney Phil, Harold Ramis directing, and it's going to be a good one. I really love this movie, and I hope that you all will enjoy this movie and watch this movie as well. I don't know if it is streaming anywhere, but I do know that you can always rent those on VOD. So if you have any access to Amazon Prime or Apple or any of those things, you can absolutely get it there for, a couple bucks if you want to stream along with us. I do know if you have AMC Plus, it is streaming right now on there. So if you do have AMC Plus, like I do, for a couple more days, I'm probably going to watch Groundhog Day and write some notes on that. But other than that, you can always find me on my social media, on Twitter, on Instagram, at CD Waits. You can always watch these here live on Twitch. It is Quaitsie Twitch, CWAITSIE, as you can see on the screen here. from this, that and follow me and hit me up with a follow here. We're slowly working our way to try and get some more followers and viewers in here, and hopefully get that chat going even more. I love talking to you guys and seeing the chat move, and talking to you all about these movies as we go through this. So I look forward to spending next Sunday with you, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern. So I look forward to seeing you then. And as always, have a good week. Thanks so much, everybody.